Hello, David.
Hi, Trisha.
Glad to have you on. Sorry about the slight technical difficulties.
That's
Um,
okay.
I'm really looking forward to finding out how you keep local staging development sites in sync. So I'll hand
Okay.
it over to you and let's get started.
All right, great. So, thank you so much, Trisha. It's great to finally actually speak to you in person.
Yeah.
And all right, I'll just quickly introduce myself before I start. I'm David from Malaysia. That's the country above Singapore on the map. Um, you may know me as Blog Junkie on Twitter and on Slack. I run a small WordPress support company called ClickWP, and I've been working with WordPress for 10 years now, and the Genesis framework for the last five, I think. So the first version of WordPress I ever installed was version 1.5, and 4.3 is just around the corner. So feeling a bit older, I think. Okay, so my topic today is about cowboy coding and how to avoid it. So, cowboy coding is the phrase that describes the practice of editing files directly on a live server. And everyone has done it. And I've done it too. And need to do, when you need to edit files on the server in a pinch, everybody does it, right? I'm sure even Srida does it. So, but anyway, today we'll be looking at some ways to improve and and avoid cowboy coding when possible. So we might first want to start off with discussing why cowboy coding is bad practice. Um, the biggest reason is that editing code live on the server can be dangerous. So you could crash the site and you could get uh, the a white screen error, and that can be really embarrassing and may cost you revenue as well. So a client of mine tried to edit her site before, and she was editing a JavaScript file, and then I found code in there that said add filter something something. So all the JavaScript stuff on his site were not working, and that's why. So the better workflow is to work on a staging server at least, and you can experiment freely on the staging server, and you won't have an audience as you're experimenting, and then you can sync the changes back to your live site when you're ready. And more and more web hosts are offering one-click staging, so that makes it quite easy to put this step into practice now at least. Okay, so let's have a quick stop on the glossary. So I mentioned the production site, and the production site is basically the live version of your site. This is the version of the site that's available to public audiences, and this is what people see when they load www.yoursite.com. The staging site is a test copy of the site, for testing and getting client sign off on the new code that you wrote, design, or new features that you've implemented. So staging sites are meant to be private, away from prying eyes, and um, some people even put a password on the staging site. So now, even if you use a staging site, you may find that it's really inefficient to upload changes and refresh your browser to see the changes. So, and God forbid if you have iffy internet, you've you got to wait forever for the file to download and upload, and the downloaded file may not be a complete file. So that's terrible. So the solution is to have a copy of the site right on your computer or laptop, and this will allow you to work anywhere, in a cafe, on the beach, even if there's no internet connection. And then you can then sync your changes back to staging or production whenever you're ready. Also, if you want to make use of awesome tools like SAS and Grunt, you need to use them on your local development site on your computer. So if you're looking to improve your workflow, you definitely want to learn how to set up a local site. So just before we get ahead of ourselves, local development site Let's just define this. This is the copy of your site for creating or producing new features and or designs in a safe and portable environment. So if you make a mistake here, you get a white screen on your local development site. Um, you won't have the client frantically calling you and demanding what went wrong. And this is where it's safe for you to play and make mistakes. So that's the local dev site. Next problem is, now you've got to install WordPress on your laptop. How do you even start, right? So the good news is that it's actually really easy these days. There's desktop server and MAMP, and stick around for a coupon code for desktop server that I'll hand out later. Then now you've got a new problem. Now there's so many sites. You've got the local site, the staging site, and then the production site. How do we keep everything in sync? It might sound that you'll be spending more time creating and syncing your sites rather than designing and developing themes or producing or working on your site itself. So that's what's my topic about today. We'll be looking at ways to simplify keeping everything in sync. This way, all of us can benefit from a local staging and production workflow. And we want to also make sure that we spend as little time as possible to make sure that our system works um, without, without pulling out our hair in the process. By the way, um, just quickly, just talk about syncing. There are two ways that we can sync. We can push and we can pull. And pushing is moving your changes upstream. So for example, from your staging site going to the production site, that's called a push. And then if you're syncing down, then you're pulling changes. And this is when you go from production to staging or production to development site. And I made up all these glossary definitions myself, so please don't hold me to that. Okay, so how do we stop being a cowboy? um, or how do we stop being cowboy coders? At the very least, you need to start working with staging sites. And luckily, this is becoming really easy to implement today with web hosts offering one-click staging. So WP Engine popularized this feature, and more hosts offer it now. All you need to do is click a button, and WP Engine will build a staging copy of your production site. And if you're on WP Engine, the address will be mysite.staging.wpengine.com. And after you made a bunch of changes on the staging site, you can sync the changes back to the production site with one click too. If your web host doesn't offer staging feature, you can also do it manually. And this manual process is basically backing up your site and then restoring the backup on a different URL. It's not too difficult to do manually, but thankfully there are also plugins like Duplicator and Backup Buddy to help you speed up the process. Then once we are comfortable with creating staging sites, the next step that will improve your workflow is to use local development sites. I always start all my projects on my laptop. I don't even create a site on a server. I just do it on my laptop. And this is great for just testing new plugins, discovering how WordPress works. I even use local dev sites just to take screenshots. So sometimes I take screenshots and I just spin up a local site to do it. Talking about spinning up the local sites, it's getting really easy as well. Desktop Server is a leader in the market and offers a simple interface to create WordPress sites on your desktop or laptop. You launch the Desktop Server app, you click Create New Site, and then now you can visit mysite.dev in your web browser. I personally have been using MAMP for years now. MAMP is not WordPress specific, so I also need to install WordPress after creating a server with MAMP. But it's a free option and that works great for me. And having tested desktop server, I still prefer MAMP. So um, you can check that out as well. And then recently, many developers are also starting to use Vagrant, which is a virtual machine method of creating local sites. I think one of our speakers, Neil, will be talking about Vagrant later today. So now you've got separate staging and production sites, and you've made changes to the staging site. How do you sync those changes back? Syncing can be pretty inefficient. All right, let's imagine you have a blog that is 5 GB, and I've got clients who manage to blow past their disk space limit in under a year. So I don't know how they do that, but yeah. So just imagine you've got a site that's 5 GB. You click the staging button, and WP Engine now is going to take a while to build your staging site. So let's call it 30 minutes. Then after you make those changes to staging and then you want to sync it back, you click the copy staging to live button, and then you've got to wait another couple of minutes for that process to complete. So as you can see, we stand to potentially save a bit of time when syncing changes. So the key to using multiple sites in your workflow is to only push or pull whatever's necessary. Don't push and pull everything. Just push and pull whatever's necessary. Um, for us to for us to understand what for us to understand that, let's have a look at how WordPress is set up. So WordPress is made up of files, and the files that I mean here are the WordPress core files, plugin files, and theme files. And on the other end, WordPress has to connect to the database. So WordPress is made up of a bunch of files connected to a database. It cannot exist without the other. On top of this sits your uploads, and the uploads are your images and the attachments that you upload to the post. And together this makes a WordPress site. So now that you understand this, we can identify what changes in your site and what you need to sync. So what changed? Let's say, for example, you're developing a new theme and you have been working on functions.php and style.css. So in this case, only the files component of WordPress change. And in fact, it is only the two files that change. So for you to sync the changes back up, all you need to do is to upload style.css and functions.php. So there's really no need for you to um, copy the entire staging site back over to live. And copying two files is going to save you a couple of minutes at least, rather than copying the whole site. Let's look at another scenario. Let's say you change the theme or plugin settings. So you went into Genesis, you changed the SEO settings, or you use the WordPress SEO settings, or you use the WordPress SEO plugin and you change the settings there. So in this case, you didn't install anything new, so no files have changed, but settings changes are saved to the database. And in this case, what you want to do is the thing that has changed is the database. So you really only need to transfer the database to the production site. Next, let's say you switch teams, and in the process you uploaded a new theme and then you activated the theme and made some settings changes. And in this case, the files have changed. It's only the theme files, whatever that was uploaded, and some database settings have changed as well. Even when you just activate a new theme, the database is updated to note which theme is the active theme. And so in this case, if you were to want to sync your site, you just want to sync the theme files and the database. You don't have to transfer the uploads, plugins, anything else. And finally, if you publish a new post, when you publish a post, there are changes to the database because the content lives in the database. And if you upload any images to the post, that gets saved into the uploads directory. And in fact, if you if you want to push changes to the production site, you don't have to upload or transfer the entire uploads directory. You just transfer the most recent month upload. WordPress organizes uploads into months anyway, So if you've been working on this project in July, and a client has uploaded a bunch of blog posts, just transfer the July folder over. So basically the lesson that I'm trying to convey here is that we just want to sync changes only. And even for staging sites, let's say let's say you created a staging site, and then it's a copy of the production site right now. But on the production site, you decided that, okay, I'm gonna activate this new team instead. Instead of recreating that staging site, just install the new theme on the staging site. Then it's back in sync. Um, the other lesson to take away is that uploads really don't need to be synced as much. You can just uh, in fact we'll look at a method to avoid syncing uploads completely. And also finally, take care to not to override user generated comments like comments. So user generated content include comments, orders in your shop, and stuff like this will be overwritten as if you push the database from staging to production. So either push specific tables or update the settings manually on the production side. Okay. All right, so now we're approaching the nitty-gritty part of the talk. First things first, let's talk about some guidelines. These are really important because you will lose data if you ever make a mistake. So the first guideline is the most important. Always backup production. The live site always needs to be backed up. Um, and and you can practice incremental backups. So for example, you do a full backup once a week, and then the database backup every day. And I prefer to just back up the database because, like we mentioned earlier, uploads don't change much and don't really need to be pushed and pulled that much all that often anyway. And next, if you replace an entire database, you should only go from production to staging. This means you should only pull a database when replacing. Um, I'm not a fan of pushing a database and replacing a live site database because of the potential to lose data. Of course, this only applies if you're working on an existing site. If you're creating a new site for the client, or the client has told you that I don't care for the existing site, you can just like delete it, and it's totally okay to replace the entire database on the production site. Finally, I prefer to deploy changes from my local environment directly to production. So I have development, staging, and live sites. Client has approved my work on the staging side, and now I want to apply the new theme to the production side. So I can copy my changes from staging to production, but I still prefer pushing my changes from local site to production because I've got all my tools on my laptop, FTP, the and Word Move, and the other tools that I want to talk to you about today. So with those guidelines out of the way, let's look at some techniques to sync up your sites. We'll start with a little with the simple ones. All right. So the first option, the simplest option, is just to use the FTP client. This is a screenshot of Panic by Transmit. So no, sorry, it's Transmit by Panic. So you can get this at panic.com. It's got this sync feature, and you can tell Transmit to sync this directory on your computer with this directory on the server, and Transmit will do its thing. I believe most FTP clients, most better FTP clients have this feature too. And then that's taken care of the files. For the database, you can use this plugin, this awesome plugin called WP Migrate DB Pro. And what it will do is that it will push and pull databases, and the developer version comes with a media add-on that will even push and pull um, files. So this single plugin will take care of both the database and files. Alternatively, there's a fork of WP Migrate DB Pro, which is called WP Sync DB, and you can get that for free on GitHub. What I really like about these two plugins is that you can do selective push and pull of specific tables in the database. So what I always do is I don't pull tables like logs. So logs from WordFans, email logs, and so on. I just pull the important tables. Again, this is the principle of just syncing the changes that we need. And okay, here's a screenshot of WP Sync DB in action. It's really easy and user-friendly to use. Really big fan of this plugin. Another tool to have is the duplicator plugin. This plugin doesn't do selective sync, but is really useful when you want to overwrite an existing site and then you just restore a site there. So let's say, for example, client has said that I don't care for the existing site, just delete it when you launch the new site. And then you've been working on the new site on the staging server, and now client has approved of the new site. You pack up the staging site with the duplicator plugin, go to the production site, delete everything, and then restore the site onto the production server, and then you've now relaunched that site. Another tool that I've been using for a long time now is Backup Buddy. Recently, they added a deployment feature which allows you to sync changes. This is a really useful feature, but it's not 100% reliable yet. But if it works for you on your site, it's a real time saver. Here are some screenshots of Backup Buddy deployment in progress. You see here at the bottom, it knows that the active child team has got two files that are different, and it has also detected that there are 32 attachments that are out of sync, which needs to be pushed. The Backup Buddy deployment also allows you to push database tables selectively, so that's another great feature. And this is the screens as you are doing a deployment. Okay, so next I just want to touch on some more advanced ways to sync. These will require that you be familiar with the terminal. So the first is rsync and MigrateDB Pro combo. Rsync is a Unix utility that syncs. So you type in this command, and this command is going to sync your team's directory on your local site with the staging server. And then once you've done that, once you sync the files, you can then sync the database with WP MigrateDB. Okay, next I want to tell you about my new favorite thing, and it's called WordMove. WordMove is a Ruby gem. I don't really understand what it is, but it can sync your local and remote site, and it's done all from the terminal, and it's really quick, and it's full and it's free as well. So the only thing about WordMove is that you cannot selectively push and pull database tables, but otherwise, I found it to be a great solution. This has really sped up my workflow a lot. I will be demoing WordMove later in my talk. All right. So okay, let's quickly a couple of final tips, and then I'll move on to the demo. First tip is that zip files upload faster than unzip files. If you're trying to upload WordPress, the zip WordPress file is a single file at under 7 megabytes that takes 30 seconds to upload. If you unzip WordPress before uploading, that is 1,311 files, and at a massive size of 26 megabytes, that takes at least 15 minutes for me to upload. So upload zipped files whenever possible. Next tip is not to sync uploads. So my site isn't very big, but it still takes a good 30 minutes or so to download everything. And instead, what I do, I use this HTXS trick. HTXS I put this htaccess code into my WP content uploads directory, and when your dev or staging site tries to load your uploads, it will get redirected to the production site. Alternatively, if you don't want to mess with htaccess, you can use this plugin called uploads by proxy. I'll be demonstrating this htaccess trick later as well. Next, I learned this cool tip from Mark Jaquith, who is a lead developer on WordPress. Is some code that will automatically disable plugins that shouldn't be running on staging or dev. And I adapted his code and I put it in a must-use plugin that I call staging mode. And staging mode will automatically deactivate Google Analytics, W3 Total Cache, and other plugins that I don't want running on staging. Okay, so now I'm going to show you my workflow, which incorporates some of the techniques that I mentioned today. First, I want to introduce you. Oh, sorry. Okay. One other thing is WP Local Toolbox. This is similar to Mark Jaquith's code, except that you need to modify WP config. So you can find out more here. This guy will feature in our demo as well. So I want to show you my workflow. Let me try and figure this out. So first, I want to introduce you to our sites. Okay. So I've got 3 sites here. This is my local site, and we know that it's the local site because it says here local server in the top right, and this is courtesy of the WP Local Toolbox plugin. It can add this highlight here to tell you which site you're on. If we go to the dashboard, we can see that it's running WordPress 4.3 beta, and running dev sites is a great way to experiment. So I'm on WordPress 4.3 beta, and then there's the staging site. Staging site is identified by the orange bar, and it's at genesiscamp.clickwpstaging.com. You can actually visit this URL and you can see it. And finally, the production site is epicwebsite.com. Sorry, genesiscamp.com is already taken, so I couldn't get there for the demo. Like I mentioned, all of them have the WP Local Toolbox plugin to differentiate them. I don't use WP Local Toolbox in my workflow myself because my web host doesn't allow me to modify WP config. But for the sake of clarity, I've activated them here on our 3 sites. Okay, so I want to note that I didn't copy the production site uploads. So the images on the production site, they're not on staging or development. So if we go and look at media, we see that there's nothing here. If we go to media on the production site, you'll see more images in here. Now I want to show you the htaccess file that I've referenced. Let me try to expand this and increase the font size. So the htaccess file is here. Basically, it will attempt to load files from production if they're not in the local version. So it will first test to see if the file exists. If the file exists, it will load the file. If the file doesn't exist, it will redirect to the production site, which is epicwebsite.com. All right. Again, this htaccess lives in WP content/uploads. And I have this must use plugin. It lives in the MU plugins directory, and I call it staging mode. Again, I modified the code from Mark Jaquith. I will put up a gist to this plugin later. Basically, what it does here, it checks get option Sorry, messy code here. All right, so basically I do get option and I check for the site URL. If the site URL is not the production site URL, if the URL is the production site URL, then I can run some code in here. Otherwise, this code here will run. So what I'm doing here is I'm activating Jetpack development mode. I am adding the I am forcing the local and staging sites to be hidden from search robots. And there's this bit of code here that will disable Google Analyticator, W3 total cache, word fans, and so on. So let's just test this out. This line of code here, this prevents the site from being published. So I'm going to go into the local site. This is the local site, settings, reading, and I'm just going to see, I'm just trying to disable the search engine visibility option. I click save changes, but you see it comes back. All right, so this is really useful for the staging server. You don't want the staging site to be indexed by the search engines, and this is one way to help that. Okay, so here now we're familiar with my setup, and I want to describe a typical workflow. So as we can see, the local site is out of sync with the production site. Is pretty far out of sync, and also the production site has got a few additional plugins active. It's got Genesis Simple Edits, and it's got Google Analyticator active. All right. On my local site, I don't have these plugins. I don't have Genesis Simple Edits. So what I need to do is I actually need to manually sync them up. I need to go and install it myself. Genesis Simple Edit. And the other plugin was Google Analyticator. Just gonna wait for this to install. I'm not gonna activate it. I'm gonna leave it deactivated. And then I want to install Google Analyticator. Okay, while we're waiting for that, I want to go to GitHub, WP Sync DB, and I want to download the plugin. You just download the zip like this, and then we'll go to the plugins on the production site, and then I'm going to have to upload the plugin. And I'm going to do the same on my local site. Okay, so this plugin I want to activate. Activate WP Sync DB. And we need to go and set this up. So go to the settings page of WP Sync DB settings, and then this is the production site. So I want to say I want to accept pull requests to allow this database to be exported and downloaded. And for me to do that, I just copy this connection info here, and then I go into the local site. I go to WP Migrate DB, and I say that I want to start a pool operation. So I'm going to replace this site's DB with a remote DB. I just paste in the connection info that we copied earlier, and then this has now figured out the connection details. This is the live site. It's going to search and replace the database, and I'm just going to click Migrate DB, and now it is pulling the database from epicwebsite.com, the production site, and we will overwrite the local site database. So that was really fast. It just took us 14 seconds. And so you remember what our site looked before? If we're going to visit it now, we'll see that the new content is here, and also the images are here, despite us not touching the images at all. And that's because the images are being loaded from production. So if I try to open, I'm just going to copy image address. I would paste it in my browser, and then you see that it actually gets redirected to epicwebsite.com. So that's the htaccess trick in action. The other thing to point out is that the links are all correct. They all lead to localhost. So WP SyncDB has scrubbed the database, and scrubbing the database basically means doing a search and replace on the database. I also want to point out that our plugin, we need to update the database. And that should be real quick. Okay, just going to visit the plugins. We see that Genesis Simple Edits was also automatically activated, but it's only Genesis Simple Edits and not Google Analyticator, because we have our must-use plugin, and this is the staging mode plugin is active right now. So with just a little bit of manual work to manually mirror the plugins, and with WP SyncDB, we have now synced our local site and the production site. So that was pretty easy. Now I want to demonstrate word move. So word move, I am going to delete the Genesis Simple Edits plugin. Sorry. So I want to delete this, and I want to delete the most recent post, hello world. Okay, so let's go and look at our site. So we see that the site has changed. All right. For word move, I have to switch to my terminal, and in my terminal, all I need to do is I just type. First I need to navigate to the local site directory. So I want to make sure that I am in sites Genesis camp. All right. So just make sure that's where we are. And for me to activate word move, all I need to do is go word move. I want to pull from production, and I want to just pull the plugins. So what this command here means that I'm pulling from production. The E flag is for the environment, and P is for plugins. So press enter, and it is now comparing the files, and that's it. So it's transferred the files. We'll go to the local server, and then we'll just go check the plugins. You recall that I deleted Genesis Simple Edits, and Genesis Simple Edits is back. So that very quickly pulled down the plugins from the production side. So now I'm going to go and pull the database. So that's another one line of code, or just a one line command. Instead of P, I'm saying pull I'm using the D flag, and D means database. So execute that. It is downloading the database, and it is adapting, which is scrubbing, and then so now it has replaced the local site database with the production site database. So this should prompt me to upgrade the database again. There you go. And the post that we deleted should be back on the site as well. So just go and visit the site. Here you see the post is here on the site as well. So word move really makes things very easy to push and pull from production to staging, actually to local. So it makes it really easy to pull from production to local, and very easy to push from local to staging or to production. And I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna end the demo quick. I just show you the configuration file for WordMove. It's a very simple YAML file, and basically it defines the environment. This is local. The address for local, it's localhost Genesis camp, the WordPress path sitting in my sites directory, and the database credentials. This is just dummy credentials. And then here I've got staging, and at the bottom here I've got production. So I'm using rsync, so that's why I've got the SSH details filled in here. Like I mentioned, WordMove is a bit more technical to set up, but it is definitely a very useful tool if you can get it set up. So if you have a friend and your friend is technical enough to set this up for you, buy your friend dinner, bring your laptop along, and get him to install WordMove for you. So, okay, I hope that was useful for you. There wasn't too much time for me to go into detail, but if you want to learn more, please visit these resources. I highly recommend Jesse Peterson's Modern WordPress Workflow course on Treehouse. You can find it at teamtreehouse.com, or I would really appreciate it if you use my referral link. That will give me a bit of credit for the course. There's desktop server for you if you want a dead simple way of installing WordPress on your local machine. There's WordMove as well, Backup Buddy, and WP Sync DB. And like I promised, that coupon from ServerPress, use the coupon code GenesisCamp to save 20% on desktop server at serverpress.com. And I really thank ServerPress for being so cool and just offering up the coupon code without too many questions. So I will look in the chat for any questions, and in the meantime, or you can also reach me by tweeting Blog Junkie, or through the Slack group. So thanks. Just gotta look for Trisha. How do I stop the screen share?
You did.
Okay, all right, cool. How did I go?
Great, thank you very much.
All right, great. So I'm not in the crowdcast, but I guess there's not much time for us to take questions anyway.
I do have one quick question. You already answered pretty much all the questions as far as I could see. But mine is, when is it worthwhile actually starting a whole staging site and but local staging and production setup? If you've only got to change a few things in the functions file or a little bit of CSS, what's the line where you say, really should set the whole thing up for this?
Okay, that's a great question. I typically set up a local development site for everything, and if it's just a minor change, then I would push directly from the dev site to production. But sometimes you've got ongoing clients, and you want to maintain a copy of their site, and they need to refer to a staging site to approve design work and stuff like that. So that's when you may want to consider setting up a staging site. Or if it's your own site and you don't want to work on the live site, so yeah, it's good practice to just do a staging site as well. Yeah.
Good. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Let us know where we can contact you if we have more questions.
Right. So I'm Blog Junkie on Twitter, and you can ping me on Twitter, and I'm in the Slack group. So just hit me up in the Genesis Camp channel or anywhere else. My website is clickwp.com. And if you need help with your WordPress site, I'll be happy to help you out there as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Right. Thanks, Trisha.
Next up, we have Jürgen. Thank you. Next up, we have Jürgen. So please hang around and I'll get Jürgen on the line. And we'll see you in a few minutes back here at Genesis Camp. Thank you.
Bye, Trisha.
Bye.